ready to get going? Okay. So Riot Games didn't set out to pursue business agility. In fact, when I talk about this, I describe it as we backed into it. And the reason we backed into it is because we are focused on the ends that business agility gives us. It's a means to an end. And that goes all the way back to when we were founded. 10 years ago, Mark Merrill and Brandon Beck started Riot Games to be the most player-focused game company in the world. As players themselves, they were tired of game companies not listening, not empathizing, not responding to them. And so they set out to fix that. Our mission, our purpose, is to make it better to be a player. Not to make better games for players, to make it better to be a player. And business agility unlocks that. It allows us to be the company we want to be. I personally think of business agility as two different variants that really apply to our story. The first is what I call traditional. It's in service of the firm, the organization. It's about protecting us from being disrupted, from reacting to all the things out there that are going to happen, and we need to be able to respond. It's about us being an ongoing concern. Another variant that really applies more to how we view it at Riot is it is all in service of the player. We want to be able to respond to changes that the player experiences, technology, the lives they live, how they interact. And so I actually refer to this as player-centric business agility. More generally, customer-centric business agility. This allows us to be the most player-focused game company in the world. So today I want to share a story of a recent project where this type of agility allowed us to execute the way we wanted, and talk a little bit about what it looks like at Riot and how we sustain it over time. Before I can do that, I need to give you a little context, especially those unfamiliar with gaming. So our largest game is League of Legends, 100 million monthly active users. It's a team-based game, 5 against 5. It's not a go in and shoot them up and kill all your opponents, it's a depth of strategy. In our ecosystem, we have what are called esports. These are professional players, this is their job, on teams that compete through a season, culminating in some playoffs and a world championships. And that's the context for the story I want to share. So let me show you a little bit more, give you some color about what I mean by world championships for a game.
Seen as the pinnacle of competition, it is the aspirational goal of every professional league player. To create a setting worthy of this prestige, championships are held in the world's most iconic arenas. Past events have sold out venues like the Mercedes-Benz Arena in Berlin, the Los Angeles Staples Center, and the Beijing National Stadium. This international event is broadcast in 19 different languages, across more than a dozen streaming platforms and television stations. Viewership has continued to grow through 2018, with the last tournament peaking at 99.6 million unique viewers.
So that's the context of the story. Talk about high stakes. Over 10 years, this has grown. Now we have 99 million viewers out there, creating new experiences for them in this seminal event every year. And we're going to try something. We're going to try and rally around an opportunity that emerged in front of 99 million people. So a couple of years ago, we were getting ready for our championships in Korea. And about 12 months out, an idea started percolating around Riot from a Rioter. Somewhere between 6 and 12 to maybe 8 months, we decided, hey, this is actually morphing into something really cool we want to go after for players. So we had somewhere between 6, 8, 12 months to actually execute this thing. We hadn't planned for it. We didn't have a team for it. We had to figure out what to do. So what did we do? The idea was basically, let's create a pop band, a Korean pop band, since this is going to be in Korea, but the members are champions from our game. They're going to come out with a song, a music video, and then they will perform it live, or at least as live as augmented reality can, at our World Championships. That would be wicked cool. And by the way, we have a few months to get this done. So let me show you a little bit of the experience. We actually delivered it. So a short clip from our World Championships where we have the augmented reality pop band with the actual artist who performed it, performing on stage in front of our World Championships.
Hey, you ready for this? Let's go. See, 언제든지 내 모습 따라 보내. 내가 잡아줄 때 기죽지 않지. 평평히 몰아라. 그릴 수 없어 말해라. 오늘은 결국에 보여. I'm troubling you, running it. I'm so cold. When I move that way, you gon' be so blown. I'm the realest in the game. Set up on fire with the blade. You're about to hit my leg, ringing in your head like whoa. So keep your eyes on me now. 무엇을보다 좋아할 거야. So tough, I'm scared to show you up. Can you feel the rush now? Ain't nobody bringing us down, 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 down.
So we pulled it off. Obviously the question was, okay, was it worth it? Was it successful? Was that a good use of our time and money? Well, let me share some stats with you. So the song came out, we had the World Championships. The song hit #1 on Billboard's World Digital Music, #1 on iTunes Korean pop charts, #2 on iTunes All Pop Music, and in the first month there were 100 million views on YouTube. Now, all that's great, actually fantastic, unexpected, but it doesn't answer the question for us. Was it successful and was it worth it? Because there are things that matter more than that. For us, when we're talking about an opportunity, whether it's the potential or did it work, 3 things matter. 1, resonance with our players. It must deeply resonate with our players. And we will pick that over complexity, risk, cost. That matters first. Second, can we build it into a holistic experience? Not just hand it off to players, a holistic experience of Riot and a holistic experience of being a player. In this case, as part of the World Championships. And third, does it demonstrate long-term commitment to our players? We have on several occasions made decisions that were not beneficial to Riot as a company in the short run, but in the long run was exactly what we needed to do for players. Even just 2 months ago, we delayed something that cost us financially, but you know what, it's the right thing to do. This is actually what matters when we're assessing opportunities. And this goes back to being the most player-focused company in the world, even for emergent opportunities. So, in the end, yes, it was worth it, it was successful. And so what I'd really like to show you instead of metrics are actually some of our player reactions to what we delivered.
And I love that character right now. Am I becoming a furry?
Get out! Shit!
So yes, it was worth it. And this is actually what matters. This is why we value business agility. It allows us to be the most player-focused game company in the world and to make it better to be a player. That is the end that we really care about. So let me talk a little bit about what it looks like. If you came and hung out at Riot for a few months, what would you notice about business agility at Riot? The first thing I've kind of already alluded to, big bets, high-risk situations. We want to win with our players, not play, not keep them happy, keep them engaged. We want to win big every time. KDA worked out, the next one may not, but we go after high-risk bets. The second thing you would notice is we explore new types of value. We're a game company, but we explore new types of value and new ways of delivering it. Because we know in the future that may unlock an emergent opportunity that we can't even plan for or foresee. Let me give you a specific example related to KDA, music. We're not a record company, we're not a music company, but if you've ever played a video game, if there's no music, it's just weird. So we've always had music in service of the game. Over the 10 years, that expanded into full music videos about our champions. We've released multiple albums of music from the game in our ecosystem. We have brought in top artists around the world that our players love, in this case, Imagine Dragons. Along the way, that allowed us to take advantage of this opportunity that emerged. When I was talking to Toa Dunn in our music department, he made it very clear. If we hadn't gone on this journey, what was required of us to pull this off just in the music space would have been impossible. So KDA may have been a great idea. We would have had to pass it up because we could not execute it in the time frame. And that's something we do in various ways, is explore, because we know this may unlock something in the future. The third thing you would notice is we're constantly trying to strike the right balance of running Riot top-down, bottom-up. Especially with regards to business agility, top-down requires a very clear North Star, a vivid picture of the new reality we're trying to create for our players, so that the 3,000 Rioters that are out there trying to do their best, we're all aligned. We're all trying to create the same future. From the bottom up, we don't want that to stifle ideas. Ideas like KDA don't come from a strategic workshop or offsite. It is from Rioters on the ground, interacting with our players, understanding what resonates with them, what's relevant for them, what's going on in their lives. So we need all of these ideas to flow up in our organization. And then to close off what I call this kind of virtuous cycle is, again, top-down commitment. So when we decided, hey, you know what, we want to go after KDA, it required top-down commitment. We didn't have a team. This wasn't planned out. We had to rally the troops. And having that top-down commitment and directive allowed us to reprioritize, pull groups together that haven't worked together before. That's critical for us. That virtual cycle is what allows us to identify these creative opportunities as they come up, and then to execute on them effectively. That's what business agility actually looks like at Riot. Now what I'd like to talk about is kind of how we sustain this. For those who have been involved in change, making a change is one thing, but sustaining it and growing it over time is crazy hard sometimes. So the first thing I need to share is, for Riot, player-centric business agility is a grind. Day to day, year to year, it is a grind. Now, to talk meaningfully about this, I need to share a little bit about myself personally. So I'm a competitive bodybuilder. I'm also a strength and conditioning specialist working with athletes on sport performance. And in that world, the grind is not a negative thing. It's positive. It's this never-ending passion to improve performance, improve mastery, to perform at the most elite level. That's what it feels like for us. It does feel like a grind, but it's positive. And there are three attributes of it that I want to be very clear about. One, it requires persistent effort. It is not something that we're going to work on and then we can put it on cruise control. We've got it now, let's just operationalize this. We are persistently working on doing this. The second thing is, it's actually never ending. It's not a start and stop journey. It's not like we're going to do an 18-month transformation project and then we're going to come out agile and now we can go. It is more about who we are, how we operate day to day, the decisions we make, and it is never ending. And the last thing is that this grind is fueled by a growth mindset. So for those who don't know Tom Brady, he's an NFL quarterback for the New England Patriots. To me, he embodies a growth mindset. He is considered by many to be one of the best, if not the best quarterbacks at his position, football players at his position of all time. 2 years ago, they won, I think, their 6th Super Bowl or something. And when he came back to training camp after that, he said, hey, you won another one, how's it feel starting a new season? And my jaw dropped when I heard his response. The first thing he said was, I'm here to earn my place on this team. This is the greatest of all time, speaking. And 2, I worked on 3 or 4 things that really weren't up to par last year. I feel really good about where I got them. This is going to be a good year. That's a grinder. The athlete who's first in the building, last to leave. 100% all the time. And mission-aligned rioters are our grinders. The last thing that I found really interesting about this, and this is kind of where my headspace is these days, is that this grind is defined by identity. So for example, as a competitive bodybuilder, I have a grind. But people on the outside will look at how I live my life and say, Michael, I don't know how you get up at 4 a.m. every morning, go to the gym for 2 to 3 hours. We go out for a team dinner, comes dessert time, you never get dessert. I have a teammate in this room, actually, who orders one of every appetizer when we sit down. You never have that. How on earth do you do this? What they see is me making all of these choices. I'm going to do this, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to eat this, I'm not going to eat that. Those are all false choices. For me to be a competitive bodybuilder, those aren't even choices I make. I simply do what it takes. And the same thing applies with business agility at Riot. Yes, it's a daily grind, but in order for us to be who we want, to make it better to be a player, to be the most player-focused game company in the world, this is simply what it takes. I remember talking to a GM in healthcare about 12 years ago, and he thought I was giving him like a menu to choose from. We'll do that. No way I'm going to do that. It's like, okay, this is not going to sustain. That's not who he is. His organization is. He doesn't get this. And that's actually where this is like a ... for me at the end of this. This is where my head is right now. This power of being versus doing. Too many times we talk about doing. What is the right framework? What are the right processes, structures, systems that we need to be agile? That's the doing part. I actually assert that if you spend more time on the being, who are you? What are you trying to do? What is this in service of? That the doing actually takes care of itself. All those false choices are gone. And it's actually a lot easier to figure out, what do we need to do? Once you figure out who you are, the benefits to Riot and our players are obvious. We're incredibly successful, and we did not set out to say we need to be agile. We simply said, we're going to take care of our players. We're going to do everything we can for our players. So I appreciate the time to share my story with you. Welcome, I'm so glad you all are here, and enjoy the conference.